glasses.
Yes.
All right. I'd like to call to order the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting for April 17th to order. I'm Commissioner Nick Scull. To my left is Commissioner Cheryl Lockard. To my right is Commissioner Anthony Prusi. Our Solicitor Alex Baumler is here. Our Township Manager Matt Candlin is here. And Pat Stacy, our Director of Parks and Recreation. Are there any announcements or presentations?
There are none.
Approval of the minutes.
I have no comment.
Okay, we're good. Pass that on. Now, acceptance and approval of the following monthly reports and Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before you have the March 23 monthly report, I'll just highlight a couple of items and then be happy to answer any questions you may have. On the administrative side, began working with the firm to take a look at the barn at Farmstead Park and potential adaptive reuse possibilities. We did some site visits, provided a lot of information to them concerning sizes, utilities, parking, and other what other options are at the park that is being used for. So they're continuing to work on that. We expect to have that report by the end of June. We were short, and we continue to be short on summer staff. We did cobble together park attendants to complete the April calendar so that the park is staffed. We did take advantage of some of our full-time staff workers at Public Works and Parks and Recreation that are filling in where we can't find park attendants. I do have 2 more interviews tomorrow, so we're hoping to fill our staff completely by then. And we did hire some seasonal maintenance workers, though we're still, we could still use about 2 or 3 more seasonal maintenance workers, but they did start about 2 weeks ago. We did hire our full-time maintenance worker. The board approved in the 2023 budget the addition of 1 full-time parks maintenance worker. We advertised that position, and late March, someone from Public Works did join the Parks and Recreation staff, and we brought them up to speed with orienting them and training them on Parks and Recreation and all of our equipment and tools, and it's working out very well for us. On the recreation side, our adult sport leagues begin tonight. We have adult softball for men and also women and also co-ed, so we have 3 different leagues that are running. We held our first pickleball tournament this past weekend, though it's not a March event. I do want to talk about it briefly. We had over 300 folks sign up, though the vast majority were non-residents. But it was held on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this weekend, and really went well. We had someone help us organizing this event. So scores of hundreds of people played. Great software system that if you won your match, you entered your stats and you got a text to your phone when your next match was and on what court. So it was very professionally handled and very professionally run. However, the restrooms did fail at Mason's Mill Park on Thursday. So we did have to bring in porta pots for the weekend. But kudos to Kate Kohler and Jen, and our recreation assistant, for providing this first ever pickleball tournament. I was a bit hesitant, but it really went well, and that's due to our staff and the folks we hired to assist. Our registration to open for summer camps, and I think I sent an email to everyone. Within 10 minutes, all of our summer camps are full, our supervised playground programs. We did, since that time, we have hired additional summer leaders, so we were able to bring everybody on the wait list into the program. However, we now have a new wait list going, but we are at maximums at almost all of three of our 4 sites right now. So those that are on a wait list will only get in if people drop out of the program.
And what is that total number?
Number of people that are in it?
Campers,
Yeah, it's 80. I think one site we go up to 90, 2 of the sites are 80, and the other one I think is 60. So the one that's at 60 is not full just yet.
Sounds like 400 if I did it.
Yeah, I want to say it's around 340, somewhere 8, 16, 24, 30. It's closer to 400, but so we're very excited. We are limited as to where we're going to be at the school complexes. They're going to be doing some work in the schools. So we're reorganizing where we're going to be for the summer program event. But the good news for everyone is we're back to where we were before COVID, meaning the longer day, more trips, and more exciting program. The last 2 years, while they worked very, very well, it was not our typical summer camp program.
That's great.
We're going to talk about the roofing project at Farmstead Park, but Kate is in charge of that, and I'll bring that up a little bit later. On the maintenance side, we are receiving our ball field mix to upgrade our infields for the spring season. Companies are having a difficult time getting the mix out, so we've gotten some mix. We're going to receive more. We are putting down safety surface in all of our playgrounds, and if you've driven by Turwood, you can see a big load of safety surface there, which will be put into the playgrounds tomorrow by our maintenance staff. We did get someone who wanted to donate a bench and a tree at Masons Mill Park, and that has occurred around the pond. We reviewed all of our sport and hardcourt lighting to get it ready for the spring, summer, and fall. That has all taken place, and all of our infields are prepared for the baseball and softball seasons by the maintenance staff. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I saw in your report informed the manager of some residents' concerns about flooding around Farmstead Park.
Yes, when we met with the neighbors out there to discuss the environmental improvement project, which will be beginning shortly, some of the concerns were that there's flooding at Farmstead Park. Some of it in the creekway that dissects the park, and the rest of it off of Byberry Road to the west side of the soccer field. So not the parking lot side, the other side. That kind of dominated our discussion for the environmental meeting. However, we quickly turned it and had the meeting and then met with the neighbors again after. I did see some video previous to that meeting, and we talked about during that meeting that there is some substantial flooding that happens there. Now, most of the video that we saw, if you recall, I think we had 9 inches of rain in a 3-hour period a year and a half ago. That's going to, everywhere is going to flood in that case. But the concern is that even when the field is irrigated, that creates a flooding issue. I've not seen that. The neighbor has said that to me. I've been there since that meeting 3 times during rainstorms, and I've not seen flooding. However, I did talk to the manager and we did talk to the engineer, and we're trying to see if we can figure out what steps we might be able to take to resolve this. It's not a matter of making our channels bigger. It's like a bathtub. Once a bathtub's full, water can't get into the bathtub. But we're taking a look at that and to see how we might be able to assist the residents.
Because in 30 years, I don't remember flooding on that side of the park. I don't know if it's new, but anyway.
I don't know if it's new. We are getting increased, stronger storms. So, whereas we may have gotten an inch of rain every 3 hours, sometimes these storms now bring 3 inches an hour, and that's increasing the flooding. And of course, everywhere else is built up. So downstream, the creek is full down past Surrey Lane and across Warminster Road, and that just backs everything up. And, I think that's part of what the issue is. Honestly, looking at it and talking to the engineer, there's no immediate solution that jumps out at us. But it's something we're looking at.
Water runs downhill.
I noticed that you noted that you replaced a fence at Broughton Park twice.
Yeah, so someone has torn down the fence at Broughton Park.
The one in along Barrett? Or
No, the one neighbor, it's adjoining a neighbor.
Okay.
So they ripped the fence down. It takes some work too, because there's steel that hold that together. We replaced it that night. They ripped it down again. We not replaced it, we repaired it. They ripped it down, we repaired it again. It's been okay since, but we're keeping our eye now on Barrett Road Park because someone is not doing what they're supposed to be doing up there.
Ward 4, man.
Yeah, it's heavy traffic tonight.
All of a sudden. All right, yeah, let me know, maybe we can have our traffic calming cops keep an eye out on the park while they're down there.
I had a question, in the minutes, last meeting or a meeting ago, we were talking about, the hockey rink in SEPTA, and Matt was gonna see if there's any news from SEPTA.
Yeah, so what we're going to be doing, and we've been speaking with Kip and Pat. We have an email into those guys to set up a meeting. We sent it on Friday. I tried setting another one today. Still have not heard back from them. I think we need to meet with Leslie Richards, who is the executive director, or I forget exactly what her title is, but she's the top person at SEPTA. And I think we need to convey to them that if unless we're going to get some sort of definitive timetable, and it's very soon, we may back out of the arrangement. Because as it's been pointed out, I didn't realize it had been this long. It's been almost 10 years since we've been frozen, not making any improvements to the rink, because they had told us these improvements were going to be made to SEPTA, and then they keep saying, yep, it's just around the corner, and it doesn't happen.
I don't know when that study was made, moving the train station.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. Yeah.
So we are scheduling a meeting that will be with Pat and myself as well as the commissioner.
Yeah. All righty.
Overall, great work with staffing. It sounds like, we were very short, had a great growth spurt over the course of the month, and we're almost at full capacity.
Yeah, that's correct. We're, I hate to start the season behind, but we're a little behind, but we are catching up. And we're very fortunate on Moreland that our neighbors call us whenever there's issues or concerns or something looks unsafe, and we get those phone calls and we go out immediately. We're aware of most of them. We get to them as timely as possible, but I always appreciate all of our neighbors giving me a call and giving me a heads up when something is not correct.
Perfect.
All right, does that conclude your report? Or are you going to talk about the roof project?
The roofing project it's under old business.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Just with one comment on his report. I just want to say, I did go to the pickleball tournament, and 300 and something people inside of, was it originally 6 tennis courts? That area?
There were 5 tennis courts originally.
5 tennis courts, put 300 people in there for 3 days. And everything ran incredibly smooth. Everything was so pleasant there. I was absolutely amazed to put that many people right in that area. And it was just absolutely well run. And everybody there was happy and talking and stuff. I just gotta say, that was a great event that you guys ran.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to Kate. Thank you much for the comment, Commissioner.
And how was parking?
Parking was actually pretty good. The additional parking lot we built about 5 years ago was able to accommodate.
I remember that.
We had those folks, and then we had the pavilion renters and the normal use, and no restrooms.
Did you have food vendors and things, or was it strictly
No.
just?
It was pickleball, yeah. So what Kate ran well. What I had to do with the restrooms didn't work out well.
I won't comment on that.
Yeah.
All righty. Now we have the library trustees report.
Evening, Commissioners. Hi, my name is Dave Hakes. I live at 14 Fern Avenue in Ward 1. I'm here this evening on behalf of the Upper Moreland Free Public Library Board of Trustees. I've been a trustee for, I think this is my 5th year, something like that. So I just thought I would share tonight with you a few highlights of the cool things that are happening at the library. The library will be, this Saturday, April 22nd, will be at the Township Environmental Advisory Council Earth Day Fair at Mason Mills Park. We will have a children's activity table and our old-fashioned popcorn machine, so make sure you stop by when you're there. We are in the process of creating a new community survey to solicit input from the community regarding our services, our hours, the collection we have, and the programs we run. And this is part of our ongoing regular strategic plan update that we'll be having. So we'll have more information to share as that is developed, because of course we want to get as much feedback as we can get. The Friends of the Library have provided funding for a new table that will be a internet quick check public catalog table. The idea would be on one side you could just walk up to it and access it, so you don't have to go find a computer and sit at the computer. It'll have wheelchair access on the other side. We should get that delivered late in July. And the last item I want to let the public know about is our Learn and Play Together workshop. We'll be back in person this year. It'll be Tuesdays in May 2nd, 9th, 23rd, and 30th, skipping the 16th, obviously, from 10 to 11 a.m. It's designed for children aged 1 to 3 and their caregiver, and the child and caregiver come together and meet in the community room. There's an open play time with blocks, puzzles, musical instruments, books. There's a play kitchen, there's dress-up props. And the idea is each session, there's a different child development professional there, and it will help the caregiver, will provide for the caregiver essential parenting information and a time for the caregiver to ask questions regarding child's speech, physical health, emotional health, social behavior, etc. The children must be registered, and you should attend all 4 sessions to get all the full benefits. You can register either through the website, uppermorelandlibrary.org/kids, or you can just go in person and ask at the information desk for that. And that concludes my report. As always, I'd like to thank the commissioners for their ongoing support of the library, and I'll take any questions if there are any.
I just wondered if that children's event, is that a health fair? I forgot what you were calling it.
Sorry, say again?
When you're having the parents and kids come in for parenting training.
Yes. The name of it? It's called, no, go ahead.
I'm just referring to that. It sounds like a really good thing. I wondered, is there any other way it could be advertised? I'm not sure,
Open for suggestions. I agree.
Well, through the schools, or, through the virtual backpack the kids have to school. Just a thought.
Yes, I do agree as well. However, we only take about 10 children. Picture that community room and set up a play area. There's like a sand table, water table area, an art area, music area. It's all set up just like a preschool would be. And that is the goal, once a week for 5 weeks. And then ideally, a month or two would go by and we'd do it again. So once we're at a position where we can offer it more than twice a year, I think you're right, we'll start really promoting it.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
that's great. Once again, libraries more than books.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, Dave, thank you for the report. All right, now we're down to old business and the Farmstead roofing project.
Commissioner, thank you. You may recall we rejected the bids for the roofing project for Farmstead Park. They came in far too high. Working with Farmstead Alliance and our engineer and architect, we're trying to come up with a game plan as to how we would like to move forward. We have $200,000 in grants, $25,000 from the Farmstead Alliance, and the township is also kicking in about $80,000 for this project. Just very late today, the Farmstead Alliance suggestion is that we move forward with just the carriage house and doing all of the repairs to the carriage house, because that's in the most disrepair at this point. And the recommendation for the board is to do that project, and I'm asking the board, this committee, to move forward that we go out for bid specifications for the carriage house specifically. That would include roofing, sub-roofing, soffit, bay window removal and replacement. There's some upright posts that need to be restored. There's an outhouse part of that project. So essentially everything that was in the original bid, the Farmstead Alliance is interested in just moving forward with that project right now. The thought is, if we can move that forward and it comes in at a good number, we can do that project, and while that's going on, take a look at other projects and possibly bid another project maybe in a year or so. the difficulty, in breaking this bid packet up was, this would be one project. If we then move on to the farmstead, that could be another or the farmhouse. But if you're doing roofs on both, that's one project. So, we did talk with the solicitor. I'm just throwing that in him tonight. So I'd like to get his opinion on this. If we did move forward with just the carriage house project and do all of the carpentry, the painting and the roofing on the carriage house and bid that as a project. Yeah. And then, maybe 6 months later, if there were extra funds, move on to the farmhouse. I know the granting agencies would approve that as long as there was funding left from the grants.
Yeah, and that's perfectly legal to do, as we talked about earlier today.
Okay.
So my question on that suggestion is, that sounds like a lot more work than the roofs, than just the roofs. So if this bid comes in over what we committed to the roof project, are we allocating only a certain amount of this total roof project money towards the carriage house project, and then Farmstead is putting in the rest from their other money? How's that?
Well, most of what I just detailed was in the original bid spec. So while we were calling it a roofing project, it also included some repairs to the carriage house, the bay window, some soffit work, and some other structural repairs. So that was already in the original bid. So I'm anticipating that this bid will come in much lower because we're taking the farmhouse out of the project.
Okay.
We're also recommending, if this does move forward, putting on pen bid and attracting even more bidders and potential opportunities.
Okay. And then my other question was, is there interest in rebidding the whole package, but itemizing responses so we can break it down?
We did talk about that, but not to any great detail, where each line item, are you talking about that we can say, no, we don't want that, or yes, we do want this? That was not a way that the Alliance wanted to go through our discussions, and I didn't feel it would be appropriate either, because of the time commitment, and then what are we knocking out, and what will we have to do at a later date? So we thought it would be better to just do the whole project at one time.
Sorry, just to clarify my thought process. My thought process was not the individual aspects of each building. It was each building broken down into one lump sum amount for the work that it would involve. So that way, if we did get more bidders in, and they happen to come in a palatable number, we still have the option to take the whole project in one shot.
So just to clarify, let's say it's 3 projects.
Right.
So they're bidding 3 projects, and let's call them 1, 2, and 3. And then if the prices don't come in, if they come in great, then we do all 3 of them. If they come in high, we might be able to do 1 and 2. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so they would be alternates then, right? So we would have a main bid, let's say the carriage house, and then alternate would be the farmhouse.
Correct.
And when we talk to and that's certainly a possibility, when we talk to the developers after the fact, there's a cost savings to them to do all 3 at one time, which might not apply if we pull out the farmstead, the barn, the farmhouse. So the feeling was that their numbers are going to come in high because we might not get all 3, option 1, 2, and 3, and we certainly don't want to do just option 1 at that lower rate. It's a lower rate because we're getting 1, 2, and 3. But I can certainly talk with Farmstead and our engineers and architects to see if they think that would be the appropriate way to go.
No, that's fine. And I'm sure you've done your homework. I'm just asking questions for the answers, really.
And so what I'd like to do is be able to go out and rebid this project in some form.
Right.
But we can certainly revisit that and make another recommendation as how we bid it. But I would like the board to say, yes, we want you to rebid the project.
Yeah,
That-
well, I'm definitely for that. I mean, I think we need to.
I am too.
Yeah. Is the carriage house the building that's most important for safety reasons?
It is the building in the most disrepair at this point, and the roof is leaking incredibly. The wood under the roof is in very bad shape. That building is in.
Put the fence around?
No, we put the fence around the barn, we're putting a fence around the cottage. The carriage house is the smaller one between the barn and the farmhouse. So that
Cottage, the one that we're taking down?
cottage is the one that we're going to diminish, yes.
But that's not what they're suggesting to do now?
That was never part of this project. That was a separate project that's going to occur.
The township's already appropriated money for part of that, anyway.
We have.
The fence up.
And our hope was that the grant would come in lower so that the extra money in the grant could then be repositioned to assist with that. Well, that didn't happen. So, yes. So the carriage house is the one in between the farmhouse and the barn.
You know, I share Alan's frustration. Let's get something done. It was such a great idea, and we got all this money. Oh, this is the best money we ever got. We haven't done anything with it yet.
Yeah, and even if we were just able to do the carriage house, it's moving in the right direction. The farmhouse is secure enough right now. It does need attention, but it can withstand some weather.
And in fact, 5 or 10 years ago, when I tried to get some roofing done on the carriage house, the roofer refused to climb up on the roof. It's that weak. So.
Okay.
All right.
So can we move this for action at the?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, to approve.
What our agreement is. Yeah.
I have a couple questions. What's the total amount of the project for the carriage house?
We haven't.
You think?
We haven't determined that yet.
Okay.
We're thinking it's gonna come in under $250,000.
Okay, and what do we have now for a bond issue?
Well, we have
The
two-
bond, I'm sorry, the money that we've committed to this project,
So we have two grants, each for $100,000 for a $200,000 total.
plus,
The Farmstead Alliance, 25. The township is committed, the 12,000 that we were gonna put around, no, I'm sorry, the 12,000 is for the building we're gonna diminish. Township, I think, threw in another 70,
75, something like that.
72, 75, somewhere in there, yes.
So there's 300.
Yes,
Okay, so it was pressed that the barn needed a roof, and there was work that had to be done. As long as we don't take, as long as we don't take away from the other two, I understand that there's a bigger need for the carriage house, got that. But we have to also look at what we're shorting the farmhouse and the barn. So it's all three, not just one. So getting the roof done might be one project, but you have to think about the three of them. Because if you spend the money now, what's going to happen if the barn starts to leak and you need to repair it? We talked about all three, now we're talking about just one,
Well, the barn had a new roof in 2014.
okay? But this is part of what we needed and we were talked about.
part of the 75 that the township has committed towards Farmstead Park was to make repairs to the barn so that the fence can come down.
Right.
Those repairs would be to secure the outside so people can't get into it, make sure it's safe to walk around. So that's what some of that $75,000 is to go to.
Too, without
Yeah.
the fence around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, so that's what the 75, a big portion of that, and I don't know what any breakdowns are, unfortunately, right now, was to repair the barn so the fence can come down to meet the divot requirements to take the fence down. That is still going to happen.
Okay, so the only thing that I request is that if we go this route to get this done, if there's anything that we're going to not do, I want to make sure the board knows.
Sure.
Okay, so if we can't do the barn, or if we can't do the farmhouse, we need to make sure everybody's aware that because we're going this direction, we're not going to be able to do this.
Right.
And I have no problem, we talked about the money, I just want to make sure that we don't shortchange one thing or another without having everybody on board with the same thing.
Yeah, the expectation is, and since this came in late today, we need to run all the numbers, but the expectation now is that we'll make improvements to the carriage house, which is the small one between the barn and the farmhouse. We will diminish the cottage, which is the old, what they used to call the spring house, which is
Yes.
off by itself.
Yeah.
And we'll make the necessary repairs to the barn to remove the fence.
Right.
That would be the goals of what we're doing here. The farmhouse itself would not be touched. If there is extra funding, we can look at projects that we can do at the farmhouse.
Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Thank you.
Good points.
All righty. So I don't see any other parks and recreation items. Oh, I'm sorry, new business. Department of Community Economic, DCED, grant application for Woodlawn Park.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I'm also going to have something new after this. We applied, the board approved an application for a grant from DCNR for 1.25 million. We also want to apply for a DCED grant in the amount of 250,000 to do Phase 1 improvements at Woodlawn Park. The total of Phase 1 improvements, which is almost everything except the community center and the parking lot at Phase 1, if you recall the draft plan. It's all the hard courts, it's the ball field, it's the trails, it's everything else. A little less on the landscaping though. It comes in at about $3.9 million. And before you can see the breakdown of where the funding would come from, that second $1 million that is in the write-up would be for discussion later this year if we're going out for another bond issue. However, having said that, we will have the match in place for this DCED funding. So there's no more commitment by the board right now if we approve this and apply for this grant. If we were to receive the DCED funding, the DCNR funding, and the funds that we already have in place for Woodlawn, that would not be enough to complete all of what I recommended for Phase 1. We would then take a look at lessening the scope of Phase 1, which might be half the walking trails or maybe not some of the walking trail, whatever we would take out, but we would still be able to build a large portion of Phase 1 if we got all these grants. So I'm asking that the board recommend moving to the full Board of Commissioners to approve the grant application. We did hire Simone Collins to make this application on our behalf as well.
We did that already.
We did, hired Simone Collins?
Right.
We did,
Yeah,
but
we did that, and now you're requesting permission to issue the grant request.
there's a resolution that is required to go along with that, so the full board would have to approve the resolution to go for the DCED grant.
Okay.
We already approved the DCNR resolution.
Okay, does the DCED grant, what's the question I'm trying to ask? If we submit for this at this time, does that preclude us from submitting for any future DCED grants in the near future?
It doesn't preclude us. Most granting agencies are agreeable to giving multiple grants to a township. I think you run into a problem when you have 2 or 3 and you're not moving forward on them. I spoke to DCNR because we got a DCNR grant for the environmental improvement. We got a DCNR grant to purchase Woodlawn, and now we're just applying for a DCNR grant again, so that'll be 3. And they said, you're moving forward with the environmental, you've already got your paperwork in for the grant or the purchase reimbursement. They have no issue with us applying again. Now, it's competitive, so we're going against other communities. So no, would not stop us from going after other DCED grants.
You in favor of moving it forward?
And what you don't have in front of you is a draft resolution. You will have that at the regular meeting.
Let's see what our resident financial advisor has to say.
Sorry, I gotta be that guy. Okay,
We appreciate that, Sam.
so out of the 3.9, how much is township taxpayer dollars?
Right now, we have somewhere in the area of about $1 to $1.1 million
Figured it
available.
was 1.1 and 1.2.
Right,
So you're gonna get $4 million out of that, with that money?
no. We're hoping to get, we're applying for 1.25 from DCNR. We've already made that application.
What would that cost us to get that? Nothing.
We have our match in place, the
That's
1.1 or 1.2.
Okay,
We're applying for a DCED grant for another 250,000.
correct.
So that brings us up to 1.5 million. And then
Our match on that.
our match can be, the DCNR money can be used as a match for
Okay.
that.
So it blends together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then next year, I'm going to ask the board to approve going for another 150,000 from Monco 2040. And there would be a match for that. I think it's I can't recall if it's a 50-50 match for Monco 2040.
I think it's 50.
I think it's 50-50. So we would have to, if we go for that grant, we would have to commit another 150,000.
All right, now, I'm the finance guy. You guys are really scaring me because we can't do the township renovations. We can't do what we want to do with all of our park systems. You have to pull the reins in a little bit and think about what the tax dollars are going to be to our residents to do everything you spend. We have to fund it. So you have to be willing to go in for a significant tax increase if we want to do this. That's all I'm saying. I'm 100%, I love our park systems, but if we're going to commit to renovations to both the police department and here, we all have to think about the fact of where are we going to be financially and what this is going to do to our budget for November. It should be part of the process.
Understood.
That's it. That's all you have to say.
Great.
Is that extra
And-
100? Sorry.
I support this too. One note, though, we have, we're saying 1.1 or whatever from the existing township bond, but per our report tonight, there's 926,000 left on that. Right.
I think some of the money for Woodlawn was used for other things at this point.
Purchase the houses?
Yeah. So we have to, yes, we have to take a look at all of that. And I agree with Commissioner, part of my job is to make it difficult for you.
The match that you talked about for the 2040 grant, can that be part of the money that was already allocated? From the township bonds?
If we're matching DCNR with our money, I don't know that 2040 can match with that. Now, 2040 does allow other grants to match the 2040. The 2040 grant we got for Farmstead Park, our match was the PHMC grant, so it didn't cost us anything to match. I did not look into this yet. We're not applying until next year, but I would imagine that DCNR or DCED funds could be used as a match. So I don't know that it would actually cost us more money to go after that 150.
Okay, so that would be good to know also, because that'll help with your points, because they're valid points. Because we've moved Woodlawn Park this far already, that it doesn't make sense in my mind to stop progressing it.
Right.
Right? But it might make sense for us to reanalyze phase one to lessen the scope and reduce some of that money that might be pushing us a little bit further into a discomfort zone.
Don't disagree with you. When we're going after grants, we're going after the big numbers, we're showing them the full blown, and then if they give you the money and you need to, lessen the scope, you can do that. Or if they don't give you the full money. DCNR might come back and say, we're only going to give you $500,000.
Yeah.
What can you do for $500,000? And you add all these different things together, and we come up with $2 million. Okay, what can we do? So we're trying to take the whole bite of the elephant at one time, and if we can't, then we'll take smaller bites.
Yeah, and I'm always for trying for the biggest thing that we can get, because that at least gives you room to start working back when you don't get exactly what you're looking for. Okay.
So I will have a draft resolution for you the week prior to the full board meeting, but I'm going to ask you to recommend that the board approve the resolution to apply for DCED grant.
Yes.
You agree?
Yes.
And I agree.
I'm good for it.
Noted. All right. Other parks and recreation items?
Yes, I do have one thing, Commissioner. Late last week, and you talked about earlier today, we did receive a grant for Bonnet Lane. We applied for $1 million. We got $250,000, topic we were just talking about. And our traffic engineer did communicate with the granting agency, and we are allowed to lessen the scope of that project. What Matt, myself, and the traffic engineer have determined that we can do for $250,000 is take the above ground power and wires and put them underground. They're going to need to go under if we ever move forward with Bonnet Lane, and that would be along Mill Road. And I think there's a line that crosses through from Mill to Bonnet to behind the neighbors' houses I think it's St. Dunstan's. So there's an opportunity to bury the power lines and the cable lines, and that's what would fit for the 250. So what we're asking is, I don't think we need any action other than to inform you to make sure that you agree that that would be part of the project, that would be worthwhile.
Because it was included in the original scope. And the challenge is there's really no project remaining that we could do for $250,000. And the utility lines need to go underground. So it would take care, we think we can take care of all the utility lines and put them underground.
And there's no match for this 250?
Right.
There's there's no match, yeah.
And there's nothing that we can do with Pico or anything for these utilities?
My advice to the committee is we could be talking 10 years from now if we try and get PICO to do it. What Suzanne, what I've been told is that they're getting away from burying power lines unless the developer, in most cases, or in our case, us, unless we pay for it. Because they're the ones that are going to do the work probably, and maybe they'll use a contractor, but it's going to be they're going to be calling the shots on how it gets done, but we would be paying for it.
They're stopping retrofitting to bury or new?
They're stopping, because we asked them about out here on Park Avenue with the Federal Realty Project, and she says that they're just getting away from doing that.
Existing.
What's that?
That's existing power already. I'm asking because is this something
Yeah,
where?
so is Bonnet Lane.
Understood, so I get it why they wouldn't want to move that, but is there a reason why they don't, other than financial, is there a reason why they don't want to bury utilities?
I don't know. I don't know.
It costs a lot of money.
Yeah, that's the financial reason, yeah.
But
costs a lot of money.
But they don't
it
fall
also
down.
lasts much longer.
Right, okay.
But about Bonnet Lane, I think we need an analysis of that, because a lot of the poles that are hanging on our side of Mill Road, not the creek side, if you're familiar with the area, were originally there to serve properties that aren't there anymore. So they're obsolete. And there is also a desire to have the water main tied in from Mill Road to Spring. So there's some common ground there. So I understand what Matt's saying, that, utilities are tough to work with because they're doing a lot of infrastructure work all over the place, and they're trying to cash out everything that they're unable to get under the PUC guidelines. But there is some common ground that I think can be achieved. We did ask PICO years ago about eliminating some of these wires that are here. There's telephone, there's cable, there's electric, and they were originally there to serve homes that had frontage on Bonnet Lane, rear properties. Their rear was Mill Road. Those wires are obsolete, and the one that we want to put underground by the basketball court will serve that community. And then once those wires are away, that's a big deal too. A lot of poles go down, becomes more of a park.
I think when we speak with the utility companies, I think Commissioner's correct. There might be a lot of those things that could be reduced and eliminated. But I think this is an opportunity. This, just to remind you, and I know I don't need to remind you, this master plan, I think, was done in 2004, 5, 6, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, two or three.
Right. And I think we've got an opportunity to get part of it done. And I think this is an important part, because it's one of those, it's the least romantic part, and it's the one that no one wants to
Yeah,
fund.
it's hard to spend that much money.
And so we have money to do it, and this is going to be one of the hardest things to fund. So I think it'd be wise to get this done, and that way it kind of sets us up a little bit closer to the other projects.
And that has a aesthetic effect.
Yeah.
Not like nothing.
Right. So we can do this, and then Pat, you can reach out to wealthy community members who want a park named after them.
No, then we apply
Brucey
again to
Park.
LSA.
Yeah.
I think we apply again, and if we've gotten the work done, and it looks like we're going somewhere, we might be more competitive next time for more money.
And I'm sorry, I missed this. It's not just aesthetic, it's part of the master plan that we had to get these wires.
The master plan calls for widening Mill Road, and 20 years ago, when we made the plan, we said to the residents, we won't do the rest of the plan until we get this road widened, because the rest of the plan removes Bonnet Lane from St. Dunstan's over to Burbridge. So we don't want to take that out until we widen and put a cut through. So
And there's
this,
supposed to be an entrance on the Mill Road.
Right.
And a left turn lane coming down into whatever that road's going to be called, that goes between Mill Road and Bonnet Lane.
yeah, I'll be happy to send the board a full plan so you can have, to refresh your memories. It's been a while since we talked about it.
All right.
So we just want, you guys have already approved the scope, and so I think this is just to inform you to make sure that it's still okay with the board, but I think what we'd like to do is just move forward with doing that component of the bigger project, because we didn't get the $1 million, we got 250. That sound okay?
Sounds good to me. All right, now I only see visitor comments. And commissioner comments.
I just want to talk about the Upmore Little League had their 71st opening day ceremony this past Saturday. Several commissioners were there. The police department, fire department made a very good showing. But it was actually another example of volunteerism in the township. This is the big organization, and we don't have a mall, we don't have a bowling alley anymore, we don't have an ice skating rink, and Little League's been a staple for 71 years. So I want to thank that organization and for keeping this community what it's been for a long time.
Just a comment on Little League. In the early 1960s, it was the largest Little League organization in the United States.
Wow.
There were,
Early 60s.
there were a lot of kids there, that's all I can say.
You heard stories of that, right, Sam?
I like Kevin and Kip commenting on the coaches who were people they coached, I guess, and essentially grandparents,
Their fathers.
their fathers.
That's awesome.
Nick,
All right, any other comments?
Are you doing that? Is that
Oh,
why it's sitting there?
that's why it's here?
Is that why? If not, I was going to mention it.
Oh, Earth Day,
Earth Day Fair, Saturday, Mason's Mill, 10 to 1:30.
guests of honors, Maria Collette, Madeline Dean, Nancy Genst, music by DJ Vince, raffle prizes, food from Second Street Bagels, a popcorn machine, build a birdhouse, and fun activities, an adult yoga class. Awesome. Come on out. All right.
Just to add to that, the EAC is sponsoring that event at Mason's Mill Park this Saturday. So.
Right. That's the Upper Moreland Environmental Action Committee, Advisory Committee, Advisory Council.
Get there.
I never read the whole thing. All right. Are we adjourned? We're adjourned.
All right. Thank you.